I guess we should just say a quick prayer. We'll just, I guess, say the serenity prayer again. God, grant us the serenity to accept the things we cannot change, the courage to change the things we can, and the wisdom to know the difference. God's will, not ours, be done. And I've asked a friend to come up and read something for step 2.
Hi everybody, I'm Chris. I'm an alcoholic. Step 2, when therefore we speak to you of God, we mean our own conception of God. This applies to other spiritual expressions which you find in this book. Do not let any prejudice you may have against spiritual terms deter you from honestly asking yourself what they mean to you. At the start, this was all we needed to commence spiritual growth, to effect our first conscious relation with God as we understood Him. Afterward, we found ourselves accepting many things which then seemed entirely out of reach. That was growth. But if we wished to grow, we had to begin somewhere. So we used our own conception, however limited it was.
Thanks for reading, Chris. All right. And our speaker on step 2 is a really, really, really good friend of a lot of ours. We're really grateful to have him. So, Ricky D.
What's up, guys? My name's Rick, and I'm an alcoholic. It's really good to be here. I'd like to thank Teddy and Brad for inviting me down here today. Like Teddy said, Delaware has become a really big part of my life. Not just in recovery, but some of my best friends are here, and some guys in this room that I know that I would stop a bullet for them, and they would stop a bullet for me. And it's pretty cool to have fellowship no matter where I go. There's fellowship. Like recently I bought a house, and I was looking at houses down here, and I'm like, well, cool, the Fairfax Sunday night meetings this way, and I can go to Main Street, big book if I buy here. And I was looking up in North Jersey, in Central Jersey, and I'm like, everywhere I went, everywhere I was looking, I had friends or a fellowship or a meeting that I know about that I've been to before. It's pretty cool that it's amazing how big AA is. Because I didn't know that AA was even in Delaware at one time. I had no idea AA. I thought it was just at the Stepping Stones. I really had no idea. And my home group was Claire's, and Claire had since changed, but I've been there for the last 17 and a half years. And since she opened that door, I'm going to run with that. Because when I got there, people told me things like, don't drink. And I knew they loved me. And they told me things like, let go, let God. And there's 2 directions that they're giving me that I can't do. I have no idea how not to drink. And the little old ladies and little old men would come up to me. I knew they loved me with all their heart. And they would say, are you still bust up over that? You should be over this by now. I'm like, well, I just lost my house. I lost my state job. The girl I'm living with left me. She's not talking to me. My family's not talking to me. I'm hurting. And she would say, let go, let God. I'm like, how do you do that? How do you do it? There's 2 things I'll never tell a new guy that comes in my home group. I'm gonna tell him don't drink and let go, let God. Because at 2 days sober, I had no capacity to do that. And they're giving me a direction I can't do. So when I can't do it, I go back there and I feel judged. You know why? Because they're judging me. It's that simple. How I know? I went back to them same people and asked them. And Claire ain't lying. You get anything in that home group with a big book or a sponsor. March Madness is coming. I love basketball. I used to love gambling. I've gambled once illegally. No, it was legal. It was legal. The state line convention, I bet on the Eagles game. There was 35 of us who all bet on the Eagles game. But we had a telephone that was supposed to be for 12-step calls. It wasn't. There was a guy that sat there on a stool. We just placed bets after bet after bet, and I lose my whole paycheck there. And I loved it. I loved the Stepping Stones. I love it today. I liked it back then too because it was fun. It was fun, but all those people that were there are no longer around. They're either dead, they're drunk, or they're too busy to come back to AA to save their lives. And it's since changed. It's since changed since then. Now it's a bunch of young bucks on fire with AA, carrying the big book, and it's pretty cool to watch. And I had not much to do with it, but I just show up. And you know, coming out of step one, like the only problem I ever had with step two was step one. I didn't know what I suffered from. People told me to not drink and let go, let God, and make meetings. I'm doing all that stuff, and I can't let go, and I can't stop drinking, and I didn't know what it was I suffered from. And my first meeting was in 1999. My sobriety date's in 2005. That's 6 years of bouncing in and out of rooms of AA, suffering needlessly. And I can't breathe a sober breath. And people were telling me you're in the right place, and let go, let God, and just come back tomorrow at noon. I said, I'm not going to make it till noon tomorrow. I said, I'm not going to make it. And no one ever approached me and they said, well, let's get down to some causes and conditions. Let's see why your girlfriend left you. Let's see why you lost that job. Let's see why you can't stop drinking. And it wasn't, and it's partly my fault. I never asked. Oh, I asked questions today. I spoke with a woman on Monday night. She got sober in 1972. And I spoke, so she pulled the seniority card. We're speaking an anniversary. She said, I'm speaking last. You go first. I'm like, all right. And I spoke, and her whole talk was about me. I don't know where he came from. I don't know what AA he's doing. I never heard any of that stuff. I'm like, oh, I was like, yes. And you know something? And I know there's change. I didn't want to rip her face off. There's change. I didn't want to hurt her or anybody else in that meeting. I just sat there and went, that's her experience and my experience. I'm not ever going to apologize for my experience here. Never going to apologize for that. Never going to apologize for the big book, the power of God, or my home group. My home group isn't perfect. I know we have other home groups. They're epic and they're the best home group and they're this and they're that. I don't know. I don't have any other home group to compare to. I've only had one. I still have my same sponsor if he didn't relapse. And that man who carried the message to me, you can't get back to AA. And I'll tell you what, he up to my death. I owe him my life. And the most powerful lesson that he ever taught me was, I was the last guy he helped. And now he can't get back to the rooms of AA. It's 16 and a half years later. But he carried the message to me. He carried step two to me. And my experience with step one is that I'm drinking again. I had 0 days sober when I started the step work, which is against AA rules, regulations, policies, and procedures from what I understand at that time. You don't work the steps that fast. I had to call timeout. I'm like, dude, we're going way too fast. On step two, he said, you're sitting here with a wristband on your hand from CFCF, which is the county jail in Philadelphia, and you're telling me about what you think you need. And he asked me a couple questions. Is why I'm still here today. He said, do you think drinking's your problem or do you think sobriety's your problem? I said, I don't know, Dan. Let me say, I had 13 months sober and I drank again, and now I just pulled my whole life back down on my head. My family ain't talking to me. I lost my job. My girlfriend left me. I don't know where my car is. I couldn't find no idea where my car was. I had a tuxedo on. That's why I came back to you guys. I had a tuxedo on. It had holes in both knees. The elbows ripped out. I had the black crack cans that went across this way. It smelled like vodka, and it had blood coming down here. That's why, and my hair was like this. That's what I looked like when I came back to you. And he's like, Rick, maybe you don't know anything at all. And I said, I had no idea, Dan. I don't know what my problem is, drinking or sobriety. And he walked away from me. And he got what every good sponsor wants. He got me to chase him. And I kind of wanted a cigarette too, but he got me to chase him far enough to where he said, he called me Einstein. I thought it was a compliment, but it really wasn't. He's like, all right, Einstein, let's think about this. You had 13 months without a drink or a drug. I'm like, yep, that's it, 13 months. And he said, and you drank again. I said, yeah. He said, any questions? I said, well, yeah, I don't get it. He said, think about it. If you ain't drank in 13 months, how can drinking be your problem? Well, your problem is sobriety. Well, your problem is this internal condition. How does it feel inside of you right now? What's it feeling so good? And he said, I said, well, and then I was in this house, we 12-step. I was in this house. It was just a house. It wasn't supposed to be a recovery house. It was just a house. My buddy, one of my best friends owned it. I grew up with my buddy Vic. He owned it. He was doing work on it. And I had no place to live, and I wanted to live with him, of course, because he had money and I had nothing. We were at the same size, clothes-wise. I had nothing but a tuxedo. And he took one look at me and he goes, listen, dude, you ain't living here with me. You go live, the house on Keystone Street. Go over there. You can stay there for as long as you want, as long as you don't drink and you go back to AA. I said, I'm not going back to AA. And so they're both in front of me. Danny gets up, walks away. He's huffing and puffing. And Danny comes back in the room and goes, when you drank at 13 months sober, did you have a home group? I'm like, yeah. He said, did you have a commitment at the Stones? He knew the answer. I did. I said, no. He said, did you write a 4-step? I said, no. He said, did you make any amends? I said, no. He said, if you didn't write a 4-step, you never did a 5th-step. I'm like, no. He said, do you have a prayer or meditative life? I'm like, no. He said, there's 5 things that AA asked you to do that you never did, so how dare you say AA don't work? So when you relapse, what you're gonna, don't go in some detox or some psych ward or some rehab and say AA don't work, because you never did it. That would be a lie. Because you've been lying your whole life. I'll tell you what, he kept his sword sharp. So when he cut me, it wasn't as painful as it seemed. But he got me with some chunks of truth that really opened my eyes up. And we didn't use the big book, because I didn't want nothing to do with the big book. If I walked in the stepping stones and there was books on the table, I went to life or death. If they had books on the table, I did a Northeast Club. If they had books on the table, I would go to 12 Keys. I knew one of them wasn't going to have a big book meeting. And because I don't want to, because see, things confuse me if I have no interest in them. Things aren't confusing if I have interest in it. Anybody else like that? So me not understanding the big book or what I suffered from is never argument against it. And my sponsor made that pretty clear. You have no argument against anything. You have one day sober, and you're a mess. And that started my journey. And thank God for sponsorship. Because he said, he asked me another question. He said, did you ever say to yourself, we're never drinking again? And then you drank again? I'm like, yeah, all the time. He said, that's going to happen again. And then he left. So I'm in this house by myself for that night. There's no bed. There's a love seat for a 5-year-old. That's where I sat and I just paced. I just paced until the next morning. And he came back. He was a roofer, and it was snowing out. And so he was out of work. He wasn't working that day. And here's the thing about Alcoholics Anonymous. I worked for the city for 10 years, and I worked for the state at the time. I had access to the best psychiatrists, psychologists, and therapists. And I'd been to them. And me bringing my alcoholism to them, I got some relief and some comfort. But I sat down with this guy who was a roofer, and I had a spiritual awakening. He showed me how to write a 4-step. He brought in, like my 5th-step consisted of, I read my 4-step to 5 guys. 4 of them weren't even in AA. He knew I needed to be humiliated. He brought these roofer dudes. I sat around the couch in this recovery house. I didn't know they weren't in AA. I'm like, he said, you needed that. I'm like, yeah, they're all gritting on me. I'm like, I wasn't get beat up. Because we hurt our parents, people don't like that. And started my journey here. And because of step 1, step 2 didn't look like a bad deal. And because like Claire shared the problem, that once I start drinking, I can't stop. And when I'm stopped, I can't stay stopped. And this time around, I asked for help, which is different than any other time. People usually ask me if I want help. I'm walking Kensington Avenue. A couple of AA guys are going to the last stop. Yo, Rick, you want help? I'm like, yeah, well, I'm out of money. it's 22 below zero. Yeah. Wind chills, minus 22. Yeah, I'll go to detox. So this time around, I asked for help. And every time I asked for help or someone asked me if I wanted help, I always came to with the 12 steps hanging on the wall somewhere. And I can't connect the dots. It doesn't even say God in step 2, because how I was raised, it was my parents used God like Elf on the Shelf to control me. I remember the first vivid memory I had about the word God was way before I went to church. It was ever in school. I don't know why I remember this. I remember half my 20s or my 30s. I remember we were in Wildwood, and I'm running. I so can't wait to get to the boardwalk, because if it's fun, I'm all in. If it's not fun, I want nothing to do with it. I can't wait to go on that boardwalk. My mom and dad are walking, my brother and my sister, all my cousins, and I'm running to the next block. And I'm like that little kid, I'm like antsy, right? And I went to wait for the stop sign. I'd be like, yes, I got to pee. I'm like, yes, let's go, come on, let's go. And my mom would say, Rick, stop running, you're going to fall. See, my dad didn't want me to fall because it'd be inconvenient for him to take care of me. I know that today I do many inventories. My dad's like me, doesn't like to be inconvenienced. That's hereditary. Right? The 12 steps don't clean that out. I wish it did. I just learned how to deal with it a little bit better. I remember I fell and scraped both my ankles bad. And I remember my dad's look on his face, and my mom would scoop me up and she whispered in my ear, see, God punished you. And I come back to AA, and over and over and over again, and I'm sitting in meetings, and people tell me you got to find God or you're going to die. And there might be some truth in that. Not to a guy with 0 days sober. Because people told me, ask God to keep you sober. And I did until he didn't. So now you want me to ask God to go back to God? Because there's such a high ceiling for confusion in our rooms of AA that as a recovered member of AA, my job is to give an adequate presentation of what AA is and what it's not. And I said, well, Beauty Salon Betty told me to ask God to keep me sober. And he goes, what the fuck's that? He says, it's not your job it's not God's job to keep you sober. It's your job to serve him through AA. I'm like, nah, that don't make sense. That's not what she said. I like what she said a lot better. He's like, well, maybe she's not like you. Because I do not compare myself to anybody else in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous. I compare myself to step 1. Because some people can come in here and not drink and they'll stay sober for the rest of their lives. Like Claire said, when I put a drink down, I get progressively worse in the rooms of AA. That's my experience for 6 years. With no step work, no sponsor, no God, no prayer life, no amends. I was getting worse in the rooms of AA. Now, I have friends that have drinking problems. They come in AA, they put a drink down, their life gets incrementally better as every day passes. Their emotional nature straightens out. They come in, they meet somebody, they have babies, they buy a house. They get married first, then have a baby, which is really weird, right? Right? And they get jobs, and they all this stuff, and they get great lives. That is not my experience in the rooms of AA. I put a drink down, I get restless, irritable, and discontent. I don't like to be inconvenienced. I had a sponsor call me today. I'm trying to get him to come here today. This has been planned for, for almost a year, I think. They asked me, months ago, whatever. And the sponsor calls up, hey, what are you doing today? So I'm golfing. He's like, is that thing in Delaware today? I said, nope, it's next week. He said, oh, cool. I'll go do it next week. I said, good. You have fun here with our sponsees. Like, he had no intention of coming. He's going on a date. He's going to cliff hiking or some shit. Oh, yeah, he had no intention of coming. So I just said, hey, it's next week. Oh, cool, I'll go with you. I'm like, yeah, I'll call you during the week. Right? So you can have some fun here. I don't know why I even brought that up. Anyway. Because he's not like me. He put a drink down years ago. He's done very little step work. he'll probably never drink again. And if he does, then he'll understand powerlessness, because he doesn't understand it. How I know, I sat with him for years about it. Doesn't relate to everything. That's okay. We need his money. So, like Claire read, my insanity, step 2 talks about insanity or sanity. My insanity is me running my own life. Sanity would be me trying to live a God-centered and God-directed life, which I can't pull off perfectly. But there are people in AA that do that perfectly. Just ask them, they'll tell you. That is not my experience. The word suddenly describes my insanity a lot. I'm here, and then suddenly I'm not. I come back, I'm here, and suddenly I'm going again. And I've been in treatment 13 times. And I've come out of treatment fully observed 13 times. I don't know what treatment they gave me there, but I came out fully observed. And what's the World's Aftercare program? I'm sitting in it. Every religion sends people here, like Scott was talking about last night. Every IOP, when we're done paying the money, send us here. And I couldn't connect the dots. I asked for help, I landed here. 12 steps, still can't connect the dots. See, I want help, but this is what help would be. A $4,500 loan, which I'm not going to pay back. If you can get me a job, say starting at $76,000 a year, that would be great. And if your girlfriend had a friend that would date me, that would be even better. That's the kind of help that I thought I needed when I got here. And my sponsor goes, nope, none of that. My sponsor's girlfriend was a dancer. I'm like, dude, she has to have a single friend. He's like, nope. He's like, you're never going to meet her. Right? And so as we went through step 2, he didn't read every line by line in the big book to me. I'm not saying that's good or bad, right or wrong. That's just the way he sponsored me. He said, we go to meetings for that. There's big book studies every night of the week in our area. And he said, you suffer from the suddenlies? I'm like, yeah. I suffer from the suddenlies, the gotta goes, and the what ifs. And he said, good, you understand step 1. You're going to drink again, whether you want to or not. So there's a solution. And none of us like it. I never had anybody come up to me in the last 17 years and go, Rick, I can't wait to write a 4th step. I can't wait to do a 5th step with you and a bunch of other guys. I can't wait to be held accountable. I cannot wait to make all my amends and pay all the money back I stole off my parents and all my loved ones. And I can't wait to be in service to AA. I would say, here, pee in this, because you're high. You come in here, circumstances made me willing. I didn't come in here and go, I can't wait to, what are you guys doing in here today? Let me go find God and have this great life. I came in here, came into step 2, kicking and screaming. Alcohol beat me down so bad. And there's a thing inside of me that happens when my ass gets kicked, my ears open up. I can hear my sponsor for the first time. He talked drunk to a drunk. He didn't give me all this big words. He kept it so simple that even I could understand it. Because, and my second sponsor, I still use him today too, Chris. He says, it's a good thing you're dumb. Because smart people get high every day and drink every day. He's I'm glad you're a dummy. And I am. I just dumb it down. And so Claire read something on page 44. I don't know if I'm supposed to read or not supposed to read. I'm like, I don't know. So it says, if when you honestly want to, you find you cannot quit entirely. That's because of the mental obsession. I can't stay stopped. I don't quit, I get caught. I don't stop, I run out. Right? And if when drinking, you have a little control over the amount you take. My dosages always go up. I can't shut it down when I want to or when I need to or when I have to. You're probably an alcoholic. It doesn't say you are. It says probably, Rick. Well, I like that problem. Maybe I'm not. But if that's the case, you may be suffering from an illness, which is only a sexual experience with conflict. It doesn't say that. That's how I read it. Or how about a financial experience? How about a social media experience? I have a sponsor, see this. I don't love myself enough. Let me see your phone. Let me pull up your Facebook. There you are, shoveling snow last February with no shirt on. There you are at the gym with no shirt on. Oh, you love yourself way too much. I want to be a TikTok influencer. I said, why don't you get your ass to a meeting and influence a young kid that has 2 kids and help him out? There's no money in that, though. Right, so if that's the case, you maybe suffer from illness, which only a spiritual experience will conquer. I could explain that to my mom. My mom, who didn't know what alcoholism was, I could explain that to her. In other words, if I suffer if I'm anemic, which I am, which I wasn't, I really had cancer, misdiagnosed. If I was anemic, I'm low in iron. The answer would be more iron. Go to GNC, buy iron pills, eat healthy, eat a lot of broccoli, spinach, whatever we have to eat. Iron levels will go up. Won't be getting any sinus infections as much. Stay healthier. So alcoholism is an illness which is rooted in low spirituality. And the answer is more spirituality. I can understand that. And then the actions we take here, admission is a very powerful spiritual principle. They say honesty is the first step principle. I couldn't be honest. I think admission is the first step. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. See, things have to make sense for me to be here. And some things I say might not jive with your experience. That's cool. You can go take me out and buy me pizza and I'll explain it to you. Right? Because this is how I look at it. I don't take anybody else's, like that woman I spoke with on Monday night, a couple other women I spoke with, a couple other guys I spoke with over the years. I asked them what made them an alcoholic. You know what they couldn't tell me? 40 years sober, 42 years sober, 50 years sober. If I don't know what makes me an alcoholic, the rest of these steps are theory. I have to know what makes me what I am in order to admit to it in step 1. And thank God for sponsorship. I'm not saying good sponsorship or bad sponsorship, just sponsorship. So I have to have this spiritual awakening. Well, how's that going to happen? Well, my sponsor goes, take the rest of the steps. We could end the meeting right here, right now with that. Take the rest of the steps. Tells us on page 46. I don't want to throw numbers around, but I've read the book so much, I'm going to read it. I guess. I don't know. Should I read it, Ted? Killing me. It says, as soon as we admitted the possible existence of a creative intelligence, spirit of the universe, doesn't say the word God. Because the word God I bristle with antagonism. Because I asked God to keep me sober. He didn't. God doesn't love me. He might love you guys. Don't love me. Underlying the totality of things, we began to be possessed of a new sense of power and direction, provided we took other simple steps. So me trying to look for God in step 2, I'm not going to find it. The only word God is to me is an experience. It's a very short word. It's easy to say. I stutter a lot. It's really easy for me to say. This means an experience. Because we call it what we want. Our friend Peter says, Allah, Buddha, Muhammad, Jesus, pizza sauce. Makes no difference what we call it. Because there's a power that gives us grace. I am not sober through God's grace. That'll irritate a lot of people. Because if grace was enough, I wouldn't need to be here and take the 12 steps. Grace got me to my sobriety date. And my sponsor showed me truth. And once I see truth, the grace becomes ignorance. Because if I know if I'm drinking again, my experience proves that. And I'll take actions to go against that, all bets are off. I've taken guys to the first step, and they admit that they're alcoholic, but they won't wear the 4th step. They won't do a 5th step. They'll get a home group, but they'll piecemeal the help. And there's not half help here. I have to be all in, or I'm going to be all out eventually. So and it goes on to say, we found that God does not make too hard terms for those who seek him. To us, the realm of the Spirit is broad, it's roomy, it's all-inclusive, never exclusive, for forbidding to those who earnestly seek. It's open, we believe, to all men. See, I thought I had to be proper in order to come to God. Just the opposite. that a broken crayon can still color. And he can use me just the way I am. And then my sponsor read me this page. See, I thought I knew stuff that I don't know. It's like, so letting go and letting God is really basically letting go of my old ideas. I could do it a couple of days sober, but I know stuff that there's no evidence. I just know it. Anybody else like me? Like, I know I'm not going to get that job. I know it's going to end bad. I know she's cheating on me. I could be in a meeting, and I'm seeing somebody, and I'm at a women's meeting. I'll be in a meeting. I'll be in my own meeting, going, is she really at a women's meeting? She didn't tell me which women's meeting. She's probably out with somebody. And I believe that, and thank God I haven't suffered from that in a while. Right? So the wording here was important to me. It might be anal to some people, but for me it was important. It says we need to ask ourselves but one short question: do I now believe, or am I even willing to believe, that there is a power greater than me? It sounds like a very simple statement, but right in that wording it says, do I now believe that there is, and not do I have to believe in? Because if I had to believe in anything, I would walk away. I had no capacity or no power to believe in anything in that moment. I don't know. And a roofer, a drunk goes, Rick, it's snowing out. I'm like, yeah, no shit, Dan. He said, can you stop it from snowing? I'm like, no, of course not. He said, nature's a power greater than you. See how simple that was? I'm like, oh, okay. He said, go through the rest of these steps, it's going to change. I promise you, it's going to change. I'll tell you what, it changed a lot over the last 17 years. That simple statement, that there is a power greater than me, is why I'm still here today. And like Claire was saying, there's only been about 4 or 5 times where I prayed specifically for something and got the answer like this. Now, if anybody else is like me, I'm 4 or 5 months sober, living in a recovery house. That one house turned into 5, like in a month. Now I'm 4 months sober, running 4 recovery houses. I can't run anything in my life. The only thing I run is everything into the ground. I'm the last owner of any car I've ever had. Right? Every girlfriend, any ex-girlfriend, either married the next guy after me because he looked like Prince Charming compared to me, or they stopped dating altogether. So I'm going to run this into the ground. I know this is coming, and I never did. I mean, I don't know if it did or not, but I don't think at that moment. So I have all this money under my bed at the recovery house. I'm praying, and it's 4 months sober, and you guys, maybe some women are like me too, I don't know. I had South Park on mute, hit mute. So I do my step 11, page 86. I'm a nightly review, and I start praying, all right, God, it's Rick here. Is it possible, maybe kind of sort of, you could put someone in my life I can hold? Someone with long hair. Color and job is optional. Someone who love me unconditionally, that smell good, maybe. That would be great. I'm praying to get laid. And I turned South Park back on, turned the sound back on, and I lay back down, and 1 minute later, a voice came in my head. It said, call your mom. There's a woman who loves you unconditionally, that's been there for you, and she always smells good. That is not the answer I wanted to hear. I wanted to hear the recovery house manager of Venango Street with 3 days sober. Right? And I tell you what, if I didn't have that experience, I probably wouldn't be here today. I would think everybody else was full of crap. I would think Claire was full of crap about asking for that sign. And I love that. I watched every episode of that. It was great. Right? And so that one little statement hit me, that there is a power greater than me. And I can look back through my life and see God working through it. Like everything's in hindsight. And but I had to write a 4-step in order to get unblocked. I had to do a fifth step. And I found God through you guys in step 9. There's only 3 relationships I can have. One is with myself, which I don't want any of that part of that. There's one with God and one with you guys. And when all 3 of those relationships are on all 4 cylinders, there's nothing for a drink or a drug to fix. My relationship with myself is, I don't even want one. I don't ever want to think about myself. I try to do that as least as possible. One with God, first 3 steps, straighten that out. I'm here to serve him through you guys. And then my relationship with you guys, my relationship with you guys is step 12, the principles. So the first 3 steps take care of my relationship with God, steps 4 through 7 with me, 8 and 9 with you guys, and then 10 with myself, 11 with God, and 12 with you guys. So my sponsor laid the steps out in that forum. It's all about relationships. I always say it's all about amends. I started making amends. I started to feel differently. I started having experience. I started connecting dots. And I started to have, I felt a new sense of power and direction. I don't do things good. Like, I was a painter who was never allowed to paint. Think about that. All I did was lay drop cloths and clean brushes. They wouldn't let me paint. It's hard to paint when you can't hold your hand steady. And then when I sobered up, I still wasn't really allowed to paint. I'm like, what am I going to paint? Like, nah, hold off. Then I got furloughed from that job, and I got a job at the armories, still a state job, and I started cleaning toilets for soldiers and cutting grass. Right, so I don't know how to do things that many things. I'm looking around this room. There's guys here to build houses with their bare hands, and run plumbing and duct work, and there's lawyers and there's IT people, and there's all kinds of stuff going on. I'm not any of that. But there's one thing I feel comfortable with, is sitting down with a new guy. That's where I'm most comfortable. I can't explain that. I think I'm doing what I'm created for. Not much money in that. There's really not. But the payoff is unbelievable. Right. So my sponsor reads this. I remember asking him to read me. I'm like, Dan, read me page 55 again. Like, here's my grandpa reading me a bedtime story. Because actually we're fooling ourselves, but deep down inside every man, woman, and child is a fundamental idea of God. There's the last place I'd ever look for that. I'm looking for power. I'm looking for power in women. I'm looking for power in money. And it's funny, we find power in money. It says on every dollar bill, in God we trust. Don't rely on me to make you happy. Wow. Right? It might be obscured by calamity, right? By pomp or worship of other things, sex, money, sex, money, sex. But some form or other, it's there. For faith in the power of greater ourselves and miraculous demonstrations in that power. In human lives are facts as old as man. We finally saw this faith, some kind of God was part of our makeup. I don't know what that means in a year sober. 15 years sober, it hit me like a ton of bricks. I had faith. I came to believe in AA. I came to believe in my sponsor and all my sponsors. Scott's my sponsor. He had a bad day. Tuesday was the day he had a bad day. He took it out on me. I called him up. I'm okay. He said, explain to me what okay means. I gotta go, Scott. I'll talk to you later. I said, I'm sorry, I'm having a bad day. I'm like, okay. He's always called me, always okay. But I had been okay for a little bit. Right? There's no drama in my life today. I don't know how that happened. I do. God could with a few salt. So it goes on to say, we finally saw that faith, some kind of God was part of a makeup. This is much we had a feeling for a friend. Sometimes we had to search fearlessly, but he was there. He was much affected as we were. We found a great reality deep down within us. In the last analysis, it's only there that he may be found, which means I'm not looking for God if I'm living in Atlantic City with 3 showgirls and a pocket full of money. You look for God when the rails fall off and the train wreck. And what happened over the course of 17 years is I got cancer in 2015. I was not a fellowship guy. I really wasn't. That experience created a space inside of my heart. It's called love. I came here with you guys, and my heart was ice. It was black, encased in a stone cold ice. I couldn't feel for anything. I heard the sponsor guys started chipping away at that ice. I got cancer. The fellowship rallied around me. I'm like, what do these people want from me? Like nothing. They're just here to support you. I'm like, well, I don't want support. But deep down inside, I craved it. A year later, my parents got sick. Took care of them. I don't have kids. I gave them my apartment right in that corner from the Stones. Moved in with them. Found what love is all about. I know right then and there what I was created for once again. My brother couldn't take care of him. My sister couldn't take care of him. I was elected because I was unavailable. And I gave them 4 years, and I fell in love back with my parents. You can't put a price tag on that. So how we make amends with our parents, you never know what's going to happen. I don't have kids. I never could. I said I got cancer. My sponsees have kids. And they're a lot. Thank God I don't have kids. And they're expensive. I stopped buying them shit years ago. Gone. Right? They taught me love. That's what it's about. How to go through the rest of these steps in order to find that. They say God is love. Now I know exactly what they're talking about. But I had to have experiences. Pain made me willing. You know, like I said, when my butt gets kicked and anything, even sober, I'm willing to listen and take different action. It hasn't all been a piece of cake. Like I'm not one of them guys, never had a bad day in sobriety. Like, what? I'm driving down here. I'm just trying not to give anybody the finger. Driving around, people cars flying in and out, motorcycles going by. I'm like, what's 9 o'clock in the morning? Because what brings me to the table is my defects. I'm not delusional about my defects. I'm not delusional about who I am and what I am. You're never going to hear me described as stable, nurturing, kind. There's just not stuff I can be all the time. But I'm moving in that direction, which is the good news. A drunk of a hopeless variety means I have no hope in sobriety. I have no hope in the next bottle. I have this experience with God, cracks open the heart, and now I believe He can move in that direction of loving everybody the way you guys have loved me. Peace, guys. Thanks for letting me share.